news across South Texas, where intense thunderstorms in the Rio Grande Valley have unleashed flash flooding. On Wall Street, the Dow down 452 points. More details, srnnews.com.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free, no-risk consultation. 800-292-7875. 800-292-7875. You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. 800-292-7875.
The Carolina Swap Shop. Buy, sell, trade. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Call 888-331-0269.
The following program is a paid advertisement and does not necessarily represent the views, opinions, or endorsements of Signal Hill Media Partners, its affiliate stations, or its advertisers.
Say what you want.
Welcome to We're Just Saying with Senator Vicky Sawyer and co-host David Coble. Join them each week as they provide the latest updates on legislation affecting North Carolina, from breaking down key bills to answering your live call-in questions. Senator Sawyer and David engage in meaningful conversations on the issues that matter most to our state. No matter your political affiliation, We're Just Saying keeps you informed and involved in the efforts to make North Carolina a better place for everyone. Welcome to the conversation.
Good morning, everyone. You're listening to We're Just Saying with Senator Vicky Sawyer and David. Like you part of the show, 704-873-9929. Finally back with you. I was gone last week, but
Yes.
you had the good Sheriff Darren Campbell with you. I'm sure that he more than adequately filled my spot last week.
He did. And, it was really great
Wait, he
timing.
did?
Well,
That's how you welcome me back? He did? No, David, he did good, but he's no you.
I know.
Like that's typically the way that should have worked.
Well, see, I was going to say that, but then
Billy
Billy just told me about how good the ratings were last week. And so I was a little
fair.
bit,
That's fair.
We had some calls back in for Sheriff Campbell to replace you. And we said,
I'm sure the calls will only go louder.
Yeah. I was like, I can't do it. David and I, I'm a loyal person and friend.
Yeah,
so
you pity me and it's okay.
You know what though? I do miss you when you're gone
Oh,
on the show.
thank you.
I do, because you're just fantastic on the radio. And I have to continue saying nice things so that you will continue to come back. So is there anything else I should tell you that makes your ego bloom and blossom?
See, you were doing good, and then you went right back.
I went right back there.
You went like all your gains you completely erased, much like the stock market this last week.
Yeah.
All gains you had are now completely erased. But you do you. Vicky.
Speaking about completely erased, how was Vegas?
Actually, it was very fun. I had a good time. Went out there for March Madness with some friends that I do most every year, and it was really cool. March Madness is just a great time to be out there.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite time of year. I got some friends that I go out there with.
Yeah.
We watch games all day.
Good.
And maybe may or may not bet on said games.
Yeah,
may or may not do that. But it's a real cool time.
Were your gains erased as well?
No, actually, no.
Oh, okay.
I had some decent gains.
Good.
In my sports betting. I gave some of those gains back at the blackjack table, but overall, nothing. I didn't lose the mortgage or anything, which is good. But no, overall, I had a great time. But I do hate missing the show.
Yeah,
because I have a good time here with Billy
today. Well, I did a thing.
What'd you do?
Trigger warning.
Oh, did you? Well, yeah, I saw that.
Did you see?
You could have given me a heads up about this when I saw you on Tuesday, so I could have been prepared for today. But it just sort of all of a sudden, just boom, out of nowhere, through my text last night. I did a thing.
I did a thing, and we're gonna have Tammy Fitzgerald on the show at 11:15 to talk about this thing that I did.
Thing that you did.
And it's just, Well, let's just say I am continuing my service to stand up for young women and women all across North Carolina and allowing them to have some private spaces that will not be invaded by folks who are not women. And that's just very clearly what it is. And it's a bill that will say that young women or any woman in K 12 public schools or rape crisis centers or local confinement facilities, domestic violence shelters, detention centers, prisons, and jails, that they will not be
Colleges, right?
bunked in college. Yeah. That they won't be bunked with someone who isn't the same gender as them or identifies as the gender that they think they are. So there's a couple of examples that really come out, but probably the most glaring one was a young woman in North Carolina who actually made it to the State of the Union address with President Trump. And if you guys may know her name by now, it's Peyton McNabb. And she was the lady who was had suffered brain trauma and injury from a transgender athlete who was playing volleyball against her. And if you see it, it was awful.
It was.
And so I met her during the women's sports bill that we did. So to make sure that women only play in women's sports. And she shared her story at that time. Well, of course, that was traumatic for her. And she, turned that bad experience into something positive. But then she went to college at Western Carolina University. And guess what? She had a bearded man in a dress in her using the bathroom. And she was filmed it and I actually sent it to when it happened and was all going on. And she had reached out to me for help and then she'd worked with Western Carolina. But guess what? Instead of the guy being the one who got in trouble, Peyton was the one who got in trouble. That is absolutely something that if she feels unsafe due to someone in the bathroom who's openly confused about their identity, then that shouldn't be on her to get in trouble. She actually got kicked out of her sorority
She got kicked out of her sorority
for being too controversial about standing up for her rights to be able to use the bathroom without somebody who is obviously a man dressed as a woman.
Out of curiosity, does this sorority have any men who think they're women in it?
That's a good question.
I'd be
That's a
willing to. I'd
really
be
good
willing to bet
question.
the answer is no.
Mhm.
I really. So if you're listening, bearded man who was in the bathroom up at Western Carolina, find out what sorority that was and pledge it. And
Yeah.
then when they don't let you in, I sue their living pants off of them.
Yeah.
Sue the living pants off.
There
of
was another example that we were talking about with Tammy yesterday from our beloved UNC Charlotte, but where a girl, a freshman, went to live on campus and she was roomed with someone that was a man dressed identifying as a woman. And so in her own personal space, she was sharing a room, and apparently the man was walking around naked or the whatever. So
the man. No,
why-
let's call it what it is.
right.
He was a man.
But let's also talk about what this bill won't do. I mean, like,
This
it
is
has
not
n-
HB2.
no, it
This is not HB2.
Yeah, you can still go in the bathroom at any private business or whatever you want to do. And I don't. So let's just go back to reality. If you are a man dressed as or identifying as a woman and you actually look like a woman, nobody's going to stop you from using a restroom anywhere,
Mhm.
right? I mean, there's obviously you're going to use the I mean, but this is for those deviants or sexual deviants that will go into a bathroom for other reasons.
Mhm.
And this gives women the right to be able to protect themselves and backed by law. And that's all it is.
Well, and I think we should really pause and remind anybody, well, obviously Democrats are obviously
so
triggered all over the
Triggered.
place, because they love men and women's bathrooms
Mhm.
and locker rooms. They embrace it, they love it, they encourage it,
Yeah.
they want it. But I know sometimes we can get there can be some squeamish Republicans
Yes.
about things like this, and maybe worries about when HB2 happened, there were states that we're boycotting North Carolina
Right.
and stuff like that. I think those that might be worried about something like that should really maybe check themselves and read the mood of the country
Yeah.
and who we just elected. And one of the major things that was a theme in Donald Trump's campaign was the insanity of which we have gone with transgenderism.
Yeah.
Just this week, he was signing executive orders and he stood up at a podium and I thought it was fantastic. He said, I don't care how many surgeries you have. I don't care how much you look like a woman. In your DNA, you are a man.
Right.
You will never be a woman.
Right.
Thank goodness someone will stand up and say that.
Yeah.
And so, I know some people might be worried about economic development or boycotts. And my whole thing is be very careful about, taking that stance, because if economic development is more important to you than keeping men out of my daughter's dressing room and locker and
And
bathrooms
dorm room.
and dorm room, if that's more important to you, you know what? Get that message out there and see how long,
Yeah.
you, especially in Iredell County, you keep going
Right.
at your job and are successful in any type of Republican politics.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there, because I know some people can get squeamish about that.
Mhm.
But I think one of the things that I have really taken from Trump being elected is finally Republicans, who may not have been otherwise inclined, can finally stand up and not be squeamish about these
Right.
things, embrace what they know to be right, and speak up and say, this will not be tolerated.
Right.
We are not going to allow it anymore. And consequences be damned. I'm sorry. I mean,
Agreed.
there is right and there is wrong. And I have 2 daughters. You have 2 daughters.
Mhm.
And I guarantee you, any man out there with a daughter, if I went up to them and said, what do you think about men and women's bathrooms? And they were like, oh, well, if they identify as a woman, I'm okay with it. I say, okay, well, I turned a woman today, so I'm going to go in the bathroom with your daughter right now. You
Right.
cool with that?
Right.
Every last one of them will look at me and say, absolutely not.
Right.
Exactly. Go with that feeling, stand up for what's right, embrace this bill. There is nothing controversial in there.
No.
It makes sure that your daughter, if she goes to school or a rape crisis center,
Right.
we're really going to say it's okay for a man, a transgender man, to be in a locker room or a bath at a rape crisis center
Right.
with another woman who has
Right.
endured the horrible experience of being raped.
Right.
I mean, please, common sense take over here.
Right.
People.
Right. Exactly. And again, it's not a hatred towards a class or specific people. It is protection of women.
Yes.
It's all it is a protection of women. And unfortunately, we're in a situation in society where we have to pass laws like this because common sense isn't common to some people. And unfortunately, those are the ones who making decisions and sometimes in our public schools or in our colleges or in our jails and prisons. I mean, is it really fair for a woman who is incarcerated to have to be bunked with a man?
Mhm.
I mean, or a biological male, sorry. I mean, but so when we filed the bill, and Tammy's going to come on in a few moments, but we filed the bill and I started seeing the blowback from it and how folks were triggered and just going on and on and on. At first I was like, oh God, did I do the right thing? And then I slept on it and I was like, heck yeah, I did the right thing. This is exactly what we need to be doing just to protect our young women. And I actually am more in love with the bill now than I ever was before. So,
Good.
I mean, all the bullying and the shaming and the, stuff that I see online, it actually, I think I'm weird. It empowers me.
Well, no, it should.
Their outrage empowers me because then I know that I'm doing something right.
Yeah, you absolutely are. And I think what some people need to realize right now is we have a narrow window of about
Mhm.
3.5 years to maybe even less to right the ship and get ourselves back across the sanity line
Yes.
from where we have been for a while. This
Right.
predates Joe Biden. This goes back to Barack Obama.
Mhm.
And we have a narrow window right now to try to reset, to get back to a place where just general common sense can prevail. Enshrine some of these things in law, right?
Right.
Because if you enshrine them in law, when and if, and it will happen, there will come a time where Democrats will come back into a power. Then the onus is back on them to change the law now
Right.
to allow men back in women's spaces.
Right.
And they have to make that argument.
Right.
And, and I think I still believe that is a losing argument.
I do too.
And I feel like that if we got to correct those things now while we have the opportunity,
Yeah.
because we're easily maybe 4 years away from not having the opportunity anymore. We've got
Right.
a president that's supportive of those things. We've got public opinion on our side. We have got to make the necessary changes now.
Absolutely. So hopefully we'll get this bill through, the House and the Senate, and I continue to want to work or will continue to work on it. I am happy to have conversations. I actually was very pleased. Two of the Democrat senators that I call friends, they came up to me and they were very heartbroken because, how could you let's go out and have drinks and talk about this. And I'm like, absolutely. Thank you for coming to talk to me about this. But we're not going to have a middle ground.
No,
There's no middle
on
ground
this.
because there are only men and women.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yep.
And I don't really, truly, I don't want to get into someone's bedroom. I don't care what you do behind closed doors, as long as it doesn't involve young children and
Mhm.
animals,
Yeah.
right? I mean, so I'm serious. I mean, let your freak flag fly. Whatever you want to do, I'm totally down with it. But when it starts infringing on my rights and
Mhm.
when you are making me conform to what you are wanting to do because you feel that way, that's just not gonna, I just can't stand for it.
No,
I
you
can't.
shouldn't. And I'm glad you filed it. I'm fully supportive of it. And
Thank
I
you.
think what you'll find is well, especially in our area
Yeah.
and the people who matter, the majority will be very supportive of it.
Right.
Given, obviously the political leanings of our area.
Yeah.
But obviously it was bill deadline. And while waiting,
Yeah.
I'll say anything exciting else get filed? Because like at the end of this, I think we got
Yeah.
Tammy.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad that Tammy Fitzgerald's on the phone. I'm gonna do a quick introduction of her if I can get my notes here together. So, Tammy Fitzgerald, she is the North Carolina Values Executive Director, and she spent a lifetime serving and protecting pro life, pro family, and pro religious liberty values. I worked really hand in hand with her and Mary Suma in this organization during the Fairness in Women's Sports Act, and they helped me with this bill, and they are united behind us and want to see this bill pass. And I want to welcome to the radio show Tammy Fitzgerald. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you so much, Senator Sawyer. It's good to hear your voice this morning.
Thank you so much. And David and I spent the first part of the show really talking about this bill. And I wanted you to, because you're so articulate and you can explain to folks, because this is a bill that you and I worked on in the off session. But this is not because you're just sitting out there trying to pick on one person. This is because you actually have real life stories of young women who have been put in terrible situations, and this bill is there to protect them. Can you kind of relay some of those stories that you had relayed to me?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, the reason this bill needs to be passed is because we have women and girls who are suffering in North Carolina from the radical gender ideology that's engulfed us as a society. We heard from girls all over the state and their moms. And I'll just give you some of the examples.
Mhm.
One of the girls was a college freshman at UNC Charlotte and was placed in a dorm room with a biological male who identified as a female. This male had everything fully intact because he walked around the room the entire year nude. And the girl's mother had cancer, so it was a difficult situation for her to advocate for her daughter. That just should never happen. That's just really outrageous. Then we have Peyton McNabb, who was the poster child for the women's sports bill 2 years ago. This was a girl, high school senior, who was in a volleyball game with her school team, and a biological male identifying as a female on the opposite team hit her in the head with a volleyball that caused neurological damage that she still suffers from. So that was a good reason to pass the women's sports bill. But after she left high school and went to college at Western Carolina University, she was in the women's bathroom on campus one day, and a male dressed in a skirt and heels walked into the bathroom. And Peyton had been told by campus police to take her phone out and film something if there was fear involved. And so she did that, and she was actually charged by this male under Title IX with sexual harassment and had to go through a proceeding on campus. Fortunately, she won the proceeding and was found not guilty, but the fact that she even had to go through it was absurd.
Absolutely.
And then we've heard from the mother of some girls. We've heard from a couple of mothers from girls in school in Asheville and Buncombe County schools who are being forced to go to the bathroom every day at school with some biological males identifying as females. And there are several of these boys, not just one or two. And so these girls were told that if they felt uncomfortable, they could go to the front of the school to a single bathroom and use the bathroom there. But the point for these mothers and girls is they have to be inconvenienced. They're the ones that suffer the inconvenience of doing that, not the boy
Yeah.
who thinks he's a girl.
And
So
yeah, thank you for Yeah, thank you for sharing those stories, Tammy. Sorry to interrupt you, but I also wanted you to talk specifically about, you know, some of the online triggered people who are very upset by the filing of this bill. Totally miss the intent of this bill. They're calling it an HB 2.0, right? And it is clearly not the HB2 of 10 years ago. And talked about the differences between this bill as filed and HB2 back in what I guess 10 years ago now.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, yes. Well, one of the big differences is that HB2 applied it was the state preempting local ordinances passed by local governments like cities and counties and towns. And um, it applied to non-discrimination laws. And basically, the state said they could set what the non-discrimination policies are for the state, but not the local governments. This bill doesn't do anything like that. It's not even part of what the bill is attempting to do. This bill defines man, woman, male, female, and sex according to biological sex. But it doesn't affect local government policy. It also doesn't affect public accommodations, which is any place where the public is invited to go. This bill affects certain public buildings, and it's very specific about what buildings are impacted, but it does not affect local business owners, any kind of private industry. The only places it affects are public buildings. And those specific buildings are prisons and any kind of local detainment center, rape crisis centers, juvenile detention centers, and then public schools and universities. These are all publicly funded buildings, and they're not private businesses. So that's a huge difference right there. This bill requires segregation by sex based on biology in bathrooms, locker rooms, changing rooms, and sleeping quarters. And so that is one similarity to the former bill, but it really is nothing like HB2. And it should be, after 9 years of experiencing radical gender ideology, it should be something that is supported by 70 to 80% of the public, according to most recent polls.
Yeah, I agree. I just thank you for breaking that down for us. And as we move forward, I know that Family Values is going to be very supportive of this legislation and continue to work through. Have you seen or heard any? Well, let's just say, what have you seen other than pushback? I mean, the type of pushback that we're seeing now seems like it's just misguided, right? But have you seen anything that is critically going to damage the bill, or do you think that there's, forces out there that are going to try to take it out, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm sure there are radical activist groups that would like to do that, but I think the majority of people support these ideas. I mean, there are only two sexes, male and female, and what's in this bill is almost identical to what President Trump put in one of his earliest executive orders during his term this year. And so defining male and female and declaring there are only two sexes and there are certain spaces where women should expect privacy and safety, these are concepts that almost everyone supports. They're universal. And President Trump certainly has taken these measures at the federal level. And now we just need to do this at the state level to support what President Trump is doing.
Well said. Thank you. Tammy Fitzgerald, thank you so much for calling into the show and helping us work through this bill. And I look forward to working with you along with North Carolina Family Values and hopefully get this piece of legislation into law. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Senator Sawyer, and thank you for having the courage to bring the bill up. We appreciate your leadership.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tammy, for being on the call. So, on the show,
On the call.
on the call. Well,
Yeah,
it was on
yeah.
the call, but it was also
Yeah.
on the show.
Well, I think you were getting ready to say something so like amazingly awesome there that you are not thinking about. So what were you going to say?
Well, there's so many that I have to run through, right?
I know.
mean, because just the profound nature of my thoughts.
I know.
It's very difficult to keep all of them straight and then verbalize them at once.
Yeah.
But no, but I think Tammy hit on a lot of the things we hit on before.
Mm-hmm.
That she called in. You are going to see. Obviously, you're already seeing pushback. On this. But I think the key thing for me is I really hope that Republicans stay in line and support this.
Mhm.
I know that we're getting ready to enter in primary seasons and stuff
Mhm.
like that, and I know a lot of Republicans can sometimes be worried about primaries and their elections. I will assure the majority of
Mhm.
Republicans, you are not going to lose your primary because your opponent thinks men should be in women's locker rooms and bathrooms.
Yeah.
I can assure you, you are not going to lose your primary
That's
based on that.
right.
And if you run scared from this, now there's some swing districts where maybe
In the
it does,
general,
but in a general. But I still believe that in these swing districts, I still believe the majority of people
Yeah.
do not want them with men in
Yeah.
women's bathrooms.
And
I just
if
don't
they're
think they do.
and if they're going to hit you on something in a general election and this is what they're going to use, have at it.
Have at it.
Go ahead, hit me hard as you want to in a general election about me standing up for women. And because it is a losing issue, just like Trump said, it is a 20, you're on the wrong end of this. This is 20% you're arguing for, where 80% realize that this is what should happen. I mean,
Absolutely.
so yeah, go ahead, raise money off of it and take all the liberal tears and put them in campaigns and, at the end of a next election cycle. But it's not going to hunt. That dog doesn't hunt, right?
No,
it just
it really
doesn't.
doesn't.
It really doesn't.
Well, and like we said earlier, we just had an election, a nationwide election,
Mhm.
where Trump won every single swing state.
Yeah.
And one of the central themes of his campaign was this:
Right.
getting rid of the radical gender ideology, protecting women in women's spaces, and things like that. So look to that as your model.
Right.
Look to that and to say, look, the majority of the country is with us on this issue.
Right.
All right. Now, maybe not every issue, but this one, the majority of the country is.
Absolutely. And I'm ready to take it on.
Good for you. We're listening to We're Just Saying on the radio.
On the radio.
It's so tough. It's so tough. We'll be right back.
We all play a role. We all play a role in keeping our community safe.
Every day, we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good, others not so much.
But that's life.
It's when something doesn't seem quite right that it's time to pay attention.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
the intro music.
Yeah.
But so that's old school.
That is
That
old
goes
school.
back. I
I
mean, that
love-
goes way back right there.
Hear me roar.
Here you are. But
Yeah.
so before actually Tammy came on, we were talking about bill deadline
Yes.
was this week.
Yes.
So if you weren't going to get the bill in, it's not getting in at this point, right?
Well, yes and no. I think
So
some
they're
of
more
the-
like guidelines than actual rules.
I think some of these rules are really just to terrorize the minority party and freshmen. I do, because nothing is ever dead.
Yeah.
And bills that are moving, we can do something like they call a PCS or committee substitute, where you basically just gut the entire bill and put ever what you want into it. So really, I just look at these bills as like vehicles for legislation that's coming down the pipe.
So now, which senator? I have a theory on who it was.
Okay.
But which senator has filed the most? I know y'all keep count of who files the most bills.
Good question. It has to be either Tim Moffitt, who's been on the show,
Yes.
friend of the show, or Bobby Hanning. And I think Todd Johnson,
See,
who's also a friend of the show.
I'm going with Tim Moffitt. I'm going with Tim Moffitt.
We always have a joke with Senator Moffitt, and we're like, he goes, "I got a bill for that." So every time he talks about something, he goes, "I've got a bill for that." But he is just so good, and he has a lot of great ideas.
Oh, he
and so-
does. Well, and he doesn't, and it's a general rule. He doesn't sit on them. Like, I
No.
mean, when these things come in, he's like, "No, I think this is good. Let's move it."
Let's do
And
it.
he files the bill.
He does.
Hardworking.
So there
senator.
were over like 760 bills filed just in the Senate.
Wow.
760. I bet you maybe 15 of those will come in law.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, yeah. But now,
Maybe
so
even that,
explain to me the
yeah.
process. The Senate is filing all their bills.
Right.
The House is filing all their bills.
Correct.
Sometimes a House bill has Senate co-sponsorship. Sometimes
Correct.
it doesn't.
Correct.
So, like, how do you all get to see? Like, I mean, obviously
Yeah.
the bills are filed, then
Right.
they've got to go to committee.
Right.
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 And then committee has multiple readings of them and everything like that, and
Right.
hearings and everything like that. And then they have to be voted out of committee and then get to you.
Yeah.
So really, I guess a lot of the, I don't want to call it noise, but a lot of the bills that really probably aren't going to get very far, they get weeded out in committee before y'all ever see them.
Yes, there is a lovely man named Senator Bill Rabin, who's our rules chairman. And he is basically the one with the steering wheel on all bills. And he has a lot of them that will stay comfortably rested in the Senate Rules Committee. So when a bill gets filed, it's called the first reading. And they will basically hang out in rules and die a terrible death. And then a few of those will come out if he's feeling gracious enough. But I can tell you some that will never come out. I don't think ever will come out. Although, I've said that before and I've been wrong. We're going to talk about a school calendar compromise here in a minute.
The main
I never
bill
thought-
that I want
What?
to make sure comes out
Uh-huh.
is the establishment of the North Carolina Wrestling Hall of Fame. I saw that bill was filed.
Yes.
I want to thank the brave legislators who finally put that forward for a physical location for the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. But I am fully supportive of that, and all I need to know is who I got to call to make sure that makes it out of committee. Because obviously, if there's any, I mean, obviously you can champion the
Protecting
bill
women.
protecting women. I'm going to champion the professional wrestling.
You're making Miss Elizabeth proud.
Miss Elizabeth was fantastic.
She
Thank you
was.
very much.
Sorry, I'm showing my Southern roots here, as I was a very avid fan and watched wrestling on Saturday mornings. But this is going to be a throwback, David. I'm going to test your knowledge.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Do you remember Glow?
The Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling?
You do.
I do
That
remember
was
Glow.
my favorite.
Of course, that was your favorite.
And my favorite wrestler on Glow was between Sally the Farmer's Daughter. Do you remember her?
Yeah, vaguely.
And then
those were my formative years. So I vaguely remember Sally the Farmer's Daughter.
And now I can see her face. She was tall, large, with big red hair. And I think she went by the stage name of Attila. But she would eat raw meat in front of the camera. Do you remember her?
I do remember
And she would wear
her.
chains, and she was big girl, like
Yes.
huge, strapping
Yes.
woman. And she would be like, and maybe she had like a Russian accent. What is her name? I can't remember her. Anyways, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Well, it will come to us,
But
I'm sure.
I will only support the Wrestling Hall of Fame if Glow has its own dedicated spot.
Okay. A
Okay?
wing for Glow.
A wing
The
for
gorgeous
Glow.
ladies of wrestling.
Yes, continuing with
Pioneers that they were.
They're fantastic. You know, there is a documentary about Glow.
Yes, on
Yes,
Netflix.
I know,
Yeah.
and I've went
Or docudrama, I guess, is more or docu-comedy actually. It's actually pretty lighthearted. I've watched it.
Well, you know, the town of Mooresville, our beloved hometown, had a very famous beginning wrestler that was like lived there. And what is it,
Nelson Royal.
Nelson Royal.
Who also made a lot of the boots that the wrestlers bought and wore.
Is that why he has the boot company?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Oh, right. So
yep, there it is. Billy found
there's
it.
Glow. There she is.
It was actually Billy's screensaver. It was actually Billy's screensaver.
Yeah.
But no, Nelson Royal, absolutely. He also helped design championship belts.
No way.
Yes, he did. Very creative guy. Yep, helped design championship belts that they had, and you know, obviously, definitely somebody who in the area was very influential. But I got to tell you, so it was I know we completely digress.
I don't care, but we're talking about wrestling.
We've gone down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's all right.
But hopefully, this you know story of my love of wrestling will influence the legislators down there, especially Senator Raymond, to make sure that bill makes it out of committee. But my first ever attendance at a wrestling, so about every third Sunday at the Asheville Civic Center, the NWA, National Wrestling Alliance, would come through, and they always had a 2:00 show. And so they would have like a 2:00 show in Asheville, and then like a 7:00 show down in Greenville.
At the Armory?
No, at the Asheville Civic Center.
Oh,
I have been to wrestling at the Armory. I have been to wrestling at the Armory, but this was at the Asheville Civic Center, and my now brother-in-law, who was then dating my sister, got us tickets for Sunday because we both were big wrestling fans, and took us to the Asheville Civic Center, and we were there, and I got to go for the first time, and these were great seats. He paid the $5 seats, which were fancy schmancy. I mean, that was that was a couple of weeks' salary back then, and so we went in the $5 seats, and I got to see Ric Flair, I got to see Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, I got to see Magnum TA. I actually, and you know, I can't get in trouble for this now, hopefully, but I did at one point flip Magnum TA the bird because I was a Four Horsemen fan, could not stand Magnum TA, but you know, that was my first experience at wrestling, and the fact that I was in 4th grade should not make any difference at the time.
You flipped a guy a bird at the 4th grade?
I flipped a wrestler a bird, and he actually looked at me and smiled and kind of was just like, attaboy, attaboy. We do have a phone call to save us on our listeners from this topic. Hi, you're on with Senator Sawyer. Good morning.
Hey, David, listen, I listen to everybody, political, Charlie Kirk, all of you people and especially you guys today. But what Charlie Kirk was talking about is Republicans, the Democrats get out and they knock on doors. I think Pennsylvania just had a midterm. I'm not really sure, but they lost the seat. We lost the congressional seat there. But I don't know exactly when the voting time is, but some people don't know. I don't know all the dates. So could you help us with that sometime?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to take that? Or
absolutely. Go right ahead.
Okay, so so this year, the election you're referring to up in Pennsylvania was a special election. And so it was very off cycle from election standpoint. This year, being an odd numbered year, the only elections that you'll see, at least in our area, are for school board and for city council races. Those are the odd number races. And then next year will be the midterms. So that's when you will see the good Senator Sawyer back on the ballot. You'll see your congressional races back on the ballot. No 4-year, so no governor, no president next year. But for this year, no elections to speak of other than your local elections, and then midterms for Congress and for state houses and state representatives will happen next year.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't you think the locals are just as important? I think they're very important, really.
I would argue the local is more important.
Absolutely.
And here's why. There is no...
What was the date? Is it all in like Iredell, different places, or just Iredell?
So filing will be in July. For local races, and then the elections, I believe Statesville's is in October. And then for their city council races, and then your your other races will be held in November unless there is a primary. If there needs to be a primary, I think that's generally held in September.
Yeah, but so voting day for these local municipal elections, and they say municipal, that just means city, is Tuesday, November 4th. So that's going to be Statesville, Mooresville, Troutman, Davidson, and Mooresville graded schools.
Oh, so Statesville's moved to November now?
Yep, it looks
okay,
like
because they used to be October.
Yeah, it used to be. And then the towns of Love Valley and Harmony and got to move to our election years, which I'm very excited because I helped them do that.
There you
very
go.
well. But thank you so much for calling.
Yeah, thank you so much for the call.
It's important. A lot of people that are older around here, and we just don't know all this stuff anymore, you know? So we got to push. I'm a Republican. We got to push to beat the Democrats. We have to push because if we don't have enough congressmen and senators, we're lost.
Yes, ma'am.
No, 100%. And thank you so much for the call. And we will cover the local races here on the show.
You know,
as we go through.
We do have a tradition of doing election night coverage.
We do actually.
We do.
So well, maybe we do that for local
maybe
races.
We
this
should.
Year.
Yeah, we should do that for local. And she is right. Local races, and when I mean local, like your school board and your county commission and your city. Well, not county commission, but your city races. They are the ones that really do make a big difference.
Oh,
in your
100%.
life. I mean, there's things that I will do. You know, that you will never really know that's happened. But if you need your trash picked up, you call your elected. You know, if there's something going on, and you actually, my good friend, were a former commissioner.
I was sat on the town of Mooresville Council from 13 to 17.
Yeah,
and it was a great time. I loved most every minute of it while I was there. But really, and that's what I tell people is that it's a crying shame that our turnout for our local races is so low because there is no other elected office that has as much impact on your life as your local races. Now I realize that state level, federal, Congress, and everything like that, those are the sexier ones. Those are the ones where your commercials come out, and everybody gets riled up about, and that your Fox News's, your CNN's, your MSNBC, I mean, all of them, they talk about those.
Right.
Your local races, you don't hear much about outside your local paper. But when you think about what your local government impacts, as you just mentioned, that's your trash pickup, that's your water and your utilities, that is your local top property tax rate, that is planning and zoning decisions of how much growth and how much development that you have in your area. That is local ordinances, you know, things like social districts in your downtowns, historic tax credits, economic development credits for companies coming in. Local government impacts your day-to-day life more than any other level of government by far. And so the fact that our turnouts are so low has always been very surprising to me. Because, you know, it doesn't get the coverage, obviously, and a lot of people just don't realize it. But I would really encourage people to make it a point to get out for these local elections and get educated on these things because you are, and we have seen it in some areas, it is very easy for grossly unqualified people to get elected into these because turnout is so low.
Yeah, they get one church to turn out.
They get one church to turn out, or one local club, or something, one neighborhood to turn out, and that is enough to push them, you know, over the line into city government. And if you get people who are largely city politics is not ideological,
right?
You know, so local boards don't deal with abortion. They don't deal with you know, all the biology. They don't deal with
unless you're
a little bit. Well, but largely the social issues, the things that get people really ginned up and stuff like that, your local government really doesn't deal with. It's tax policy, it's decisions about planning and zoning and development and things like that. So it's largely nonpartisan in many instances. Not to say that ideology sometimes doesn't play a role, but it's largely nonpartisan.
I got a question for you. I'm a big fan of having city elections the same time as my election. So you would elect your mayor, your state senator, and your president all on the same ballot.
Yes, I firmly support
that. Do you support that? Okay.
I do. I firmly support that. I didn't at one time, mainly, and it was for selfish reasons, to be fair, because when you have an off-year election, it's not near as tough to get your message out in front of the voting, the likely voter, because the likely voter, you know, in a Mooresville election is generally about 2,500 people. So it's much easier to get in front of those people, get your name out and campaign to them. When you talk about putting it, and much less expensive, obviously, as a candidate, when you talk about the even year elections, elections, much more difficult to break through the noise, much more difficult to get in front of the likely voter base, which costs you more money. Now, having said that, I shifted mine when I saw what it cost us to run the off-year elections for the amount of turnout that we get, and the strain it puts on in Iredell County, the strain it puts on our local board of elections, the money that it costs to run it, to staff the polling places and things like that. And so, from a government efficiency standpoint, I feel all elections should be on the same time, even numbered years every year.
So there's another. I agree. There was another bill that someone had filed in the House, and that was to make Election Day a state holiday.
I fully support that as
You
well.
do too. And so everybody, and then actually that would work out really well, because then you could kind of use your schools as polling locations, because
Yes.
the school would be
Because
closed
the
on
school
that
used to
day.
be when I was growing up, my school was a polling location.
Yeah. There's always some kind of schools it's a disruptor at school, and they have enough going on, so I can understand why they don't enjoy having elections on their campus. But there's also things about like folks who are sexual predators who want to vote, and they can't really go on a school campus. So there's some logistics there that has to be worked out. But yeah, I'm down with making it. I really okay. Big idea box again. Remember, I'm going to continue to hit on this. Elimination of political signs in the roadway. Check.
If I was queen,
political signs in the right of way would not be allowed.
And
we would absolutely close down schools and have them as polling locations on Election Day.
And there's one more.
I would eliminate early voting.
Well, yes, that's fantastic. I'm all about that one. But there's one more that you always rage about.
Oh my gosh, what is it? I can't remember.
Electioneering at polling locations.
Electioneering at polling locations. Yes. Oh my gosh, it's just terrible.
Yep.
It's terrible. So yeah, I would.
If you were queen,
if I were queen, that's what I would change.
Well, you never know. One day you might be.
No,
you never know.
I don't think we're going to go back to the monarchy.
You don't think we're back to the monarchy?
Well, I mean, some Democrats think we are already, because there's a king that's elected.
Oh no, absolutely.
King Trump.
But
King
maybe,
Trump.
but it's a shame that you didn't get that in before the bill filing deadline.
I did. Well, there's always tomorrow.
There's always tomorrow.
Bills be moving around. I'll just stick it in somewhere.
You could go back down Saturday and bogart some bill that some obscure bill that's never going to go anywhere. Strip it out and rename it.
I do. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's how we do things.
That's how we
make that sausage.
But interesting,
spicy kind too.
interesting news this week. First time in a while, Senate Majority Leader Paul Newton resigned.
Yeah, so he's local to our area. Again, he represents Cabarrus County, and he's been in the Senate for a long time. And he is absolutely a prince of a man, always willing to listen, talk. And he really was more of a policy wonk, especially when it comes around to energy and regulations around home building and all. He really dove into in a thoughtful and intentional way to all of his.
I got to spend about an hour with him at a conference last year, talking. He heard what I did for a living, and I sat down and we spent an hour talking about development.
Yeah,
and sort of the and he was asking me all tons, and you could tell that he was really well versed, really well read up on not just state statutes, but local challenges and things like that when it came to development. It was a fantastic conversation. I hate to see him go, but great opportunity at the University of Chapel Hill to be their general counsel.
Yeah.
But now we have an open spot.
Yeah.
So Vicky Sawyer, Majority Leader. Is that in the cards?
No, no, I do not. I do not want to even venture into that area. But what is interesting to me though is that when a senator or House representative needs to be replaced, that whole entire process. In fact, you helped me with that process when it was my turn.
Yes.
So when you would think that it's the county commission, or how does someone choose the Senate, right? Because there's what, almost a year and a half of a vacant seat. Well, it actually goes back to the district that he's in. So this one would be Cabarrus, and the Cabarrus County Republican Party, the GOP, will be the ones to select his replacement.
And to be fair, if Cabarrus, I can't remember, Cabarrus County is actually divided in two, right? There's two senators.
There are some yes, but the majority,
because Todd Johnson has a portion of Cabarrus,
correct,
right?
Correct.
So to be fair, if you're part of the local GOP board, and this may be more wonky than anybody cares about, but it's only the members of that board that are in that district do it. So for any members of that board that might be in Senator Johnson's district, they're not part of selecting Senator Newton's replacement.
Yeah, and that really is the only true power that a local party has, is the replacement of electeds when they should be vacant, leave office before their term. And it gets bloody.
Yes, it is. It does get ugly.
Gets ugly. And God bless you if you're on the Cabarrus County GOP. And I will say prayers for you because I know what you're getting ready to go through, and especially in a contested thing. And then, Cabarrus County has always had a very lively debate, and the GOP has kind of made some news. And did you see their county commission is like all kinds of drama right now?
Yeah, around the county manager.
Oh my gosh. I was like, if you made my TikTok feed with your drama, then y'all got some trouble.
Yeah, there's some trouble, and I hope and I
Trouble.
do feel bad for those county a few of those county commissioners
Yeah,
because
did
they
you-
are dealing. I mean, this is never pretty when local governments or especially local boards are battling each other
Right.
over things. It is never pretty.
It always gets
the
nasty.
local. It always gets nasty. The local
Mhm.
community gets riled up. Nothing good ever comes from it.
No, I mean, in
Really,
fact,
it
in
doesn't.
Johnston County, I know that Senator Saul was talking about how he actually has, I think, a former school board member that's now in jail and a former county commissioner that I think has suffered the same fate. And that was just Republican on Republican violence, and it just,
It is.
it gets
Stop Republican on
nasty.
Republican
So
violence.
we'll see who I know. Senator Newton had his idea about who we should replace him, but the county party is just a whole different animal when it
Yes.
comes to these sorts of things. So we'll see who will come into place. Do you think the county party should keep that authority? It's tough, right? Because I can see
it's a
both
tough
sides.
call. It's a tough call because I mean they are the representatives of the Republican Party, or Democrat Party, depending
Yeah.
on who you're with.
Correct.
Good Lord, keep your
I know. I'm not trying to get a dress over here.
Senator losing articles of clothing over here with their earrings falling out. But I see the advantages there. I also see, some people make the argument that it should come from the county commission.
Mhm.
But I see that argument as well.
Yeah.
But one of the things, what if your county commission's all Democrats
Yeah.
and they're replacing a Republican, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, well, they have to replace it with a Republican. Yeah, but as we all know, there can definitely not like you and me.
No, I mean, 'cause we're real.
We're real. I mean, we're rhinos in name only, right? I mean, we're not really rhinos, but we're the rhinos around here, obviously. If you listen to some, but there actually are some people who call themselves that are absolutely not.
Yeah.
And so there would definitely need to be some standards. Things like I don't know, have to have been a registered Republican for at least 5 years or something like that. At least lived in the area for a certain amount of time. Voted in Republican primaries. There should be standards for who that be. But right now the local parties deciding hopefully they choose well, obviously, but that's the way it is right now. So I feel like that it can probably be something that we can look at. But I do know that we also have you also filed one more thing, school calendar flexibility.
Well, yeah. So I was grateful for the leadership of Senator Berger. For so many years, we've had this conversation to go back and forth about when should a school be able to begin their school year. And we do have a law that says that it should start no later or sooner than the first Monday closest to August 26th. I can't remember the exact date of that, but schools were always battling that. In fact, some have actually just did their own thing, ignoring the law, to start when they wanted to. But into the school's defense, I do know that they want to be able to start about the same times as community colleges, so that if you have a dual enrollment or if you're taking classes, then you'll be able to seamlessly go back and forth, between those. So it sounds like there is a compromise. So, I mean, good Lord. I mean, I have hope for Gaza Strip now because, if we can have a compromise with Senator Berger and the school districts or school systems about school calendar, I think anything in this world is possible. Believe in the art of the possibility.
Believe in the art of the possible.
So we'll see.
But real quick, so I
Oh.
know that we've been lackluster in Rated X over the last couple of weeks because you just haven't done anything, really good. That
why I
all
filed the
changed.
bill.
That's why you filed the bill.
That's why I filed
literally
the
the only
bill.
reason you did it was so we could get some hate on the Twitter in X, right?
Remember, the Rated X, guys, is where we read through comments that are sent to me and pick out the ones that are I think they're pretty funny.
Yeah.
But if I don't think they're funny, then I probably would be crying in bed at night.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I mean,
But you had a couple of good ones that came out. But my favorite is obviously from there is a far left dark money group called Carolina Forward, who love to hear themselves see themselves on X, hear themselves speak on TikTok and stuff like that. So they went after you. And Senate Bill 516, the new bathroom bill from North Carolina Republicans Senator Sawyer and Brad Overcash, is bizarre,
Bizarre,
performative, and needlessly, meaninglessly cruel. The bill seeks to effectively erase transgendered people from public life in North Carolina. Hyperbole much?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, erase.
Erase.
No, it just says you can't go in the girls' bathroom.
And public
And
universities.
public university and stuff like that.
yeah,
I mean,
that's-
but obviously, these people aren't exactly quick on the uptake. If you've ever followed any of their stuff, they're proud of the rank stupidity they like to put out online.
Yeah.
But obviously, this bill's. I mean, any time that you file something like this, you're going to get the hate. So, but needlessly bizarre.
I know.
Bizarre. Because men in women's clothes, not bizarre.
So
Bill to protect women in bathrooms and dorm rooms, things like that. Bizarre.
Yeah.
So that should tell you all you need to know about
well,
this,
you know what?
this legendary crew.
One of the commenters on this post at We Are SK Rudd, whatever, he so eloquently, or she, or he, or him, so eloquently put, they are pieces of. They can both suck my.
Oh my. Well, there you go then.
So today has not been today's a great day. I have just been told that I am pieces of. So
well, there you go. They can both. Yeah. Okay. No Ukraine frag in that one though. But the picture is Homer Simpson sitting on a couch. So I imagine that's what this person looks like.
Okay, well, good.
Which is good, you know.
Yeah.
Albeit, I love the ones who. I'm looking through this thing right now. Yeah, a lot of hate on this one.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of hate on this one. So it's Homer Simpson on a couch and looking mad. So obviously that's close to the self-portrait of this person, probably. So hopefully they, them, she, him, her, whatever pronouns they identify with.
Wait when the
hopefully,
bill...
I hope you have a good weekend.
Yeah, I do too. And I just wait till the bill news. The Rated X where I have to do the whole last end of the show.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like the whole 15 minutes.
We might have to have a running tally on those.
Yeah, we should. Some of the greatest
Before
hits.
we go for the weekend, do want to make sure thoughts and prayers out for our listeners in Rutherford and Polk and Henderson counties for the wildfires that are going on there right now. Trying to clean up from Helene, and then this comes in on the backside. So thoughts and prayers out to them. Please stay safe, and hopefully it's not too much damage that comes from that.
Yeah, I had a terrible situation, and our prayers are definitely with you.
Absolutely. And obviously Representative Jake Johnson, who's been on the show before, representative in that area. Obviously Senator Tim Moffitt as well represents that area. So thoughts and prayers out to them.
Absolutely.
Any big plans for the weekend?
Well, not being on social media, that's for one.
That's probably better for your sanity, honestly.
Yeah, that's probably all I got.
Well, how's your
on.
March Madness bracket?
I
know you spent hours and hours filling one out, didn't you?
Well, I did not do it. I saw as soon as Clemson lost and everybody's brackets.
You just didn't want to be the one person left in the world with the perfect bracket.
Yeah,
that's why you didn't do it. Because if it was going to be anybody, it'd have been you.
Yeah,
it'd have been you.
I see basketball in my future, time with friends, and my daughter came home and surprised us from college. So
very nice.
We're going to have a great
Which means
weekend.
she needed money and to do laundry.
Yes, correct. Yes. And yourself?
No big plans. Just hanging out with the family. Probably watch a little bit of basketball. And everything. Just kind of keeping it low key. I've traveled a little bit lately. Got to travel a little bit next week.
Yeah.
So anytime I'm at home and I like to keep my weekends with not much going on.
Oh, very good.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us on We're Just Saying. We'll talk to you next week. Have a great weekend.
Say what you want.
Thank you for tuning in to We're Just Saying with Senator Vicky Sawyer and co-host David Coble. We appreciate your time and input as we discuss the issues shaping North Carolina. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for more updates and insightful conversations. Take care and keep participating in the conversation.